with 5 very deserving honorees. As tonight's new Hall of Famers are introduced and deliver their remarks, please be thinking about what the 2023 Hall of Fame class should look like. Hall of Famers chosen by, from a pool of nominations submitted by Cascade High School alums, coaches, previous inductees, and so on. And we do have nomination forms here tonight, so you can take those along with you if you think somebody needs to be in the class next year. A healthy group of nominees will help to ensure more deserving former Cougars are honored in the years to come. Our first inductee tonight was one of the first true stars of girls cross country in the state of Iowa. Carrie Greenwood dominated courses across the state in the early and mid-'80s. In the fall of 1983, she became the first Cascade High School individual state cross-country champion, while also helping lead the Cougars to the first team championship in any sport in school history. Both she and the team would repeat and then three-peat in '84 and '85. Greenwood remains one of just 5 girls in Iowa history to win 3 or more individual cross-country championships. Her senior year, she had a pair of state titles in track, winning the 1,500 and 3,000 meter races. After graduation, Greenwood went on to a stellar collegiate career at what is now Truman State University. She earned a total of 6 NCAA Division II All-American honors, 2 in cross-country and 4 in track and field, where she was also a 12-time conference champion. Carrie's already a member of the Iowa Association of Track Coaches Hall of Fame, as well as Truman State's Hall of Fame. Here to induct Carrie is her mother, Patty.
Well, many of you probably know I'm Patty Greenwood, and I'm here to introduce my daughter, formerly Carrie Greenwood, who you may remember as a Cascade High School state cross-country and track champion in the mid-'80s. Carrie now lives in Waterloo, married to Brian Winkle, and works as a registered nurse case manager at the Veterans Administration Clinic in Waterloo. On her 2-mile drive home each evening, she calls me. A few weeks ago, she said, "You know how I'm going to spend my birthday weekend?" It was yesterday. How? I am being inducted into the Cascade Hall of Fame at an induction ceremony on Saturday evening, and Mom, I have volunteered you to introduce me that evening. But you only have 5 minutes. Only one other time have I spoken in front of a group as city clerk treasurer. I attended a 1-week school at Ames for 3 years in order to receive my municipal clerk certification. The final day we had to give a 20-minute speech in front of the class. No paper. Guess what? It was all about my daughter Carrie, and accomplished with her running 4 years of high school and again her 4 years of college. Oh my, I ran way over my 20 minutes they allowed. As a freshman in high school, Carrie wanted to run cross country like the boys team did. Cascade had no girls team, so she started out running with the boys, and gradually several girls were interested and formed a team. Beth Knapp and Carrie qualified as individuals for state that year, running together with Beth, coming in 3rd and Carrie 4th. The next 3 years, Carrie led her teams to 3 state championships. She became the first girl in the state of Iowa to win 3 consecutive individual cross-country championships. Carrie was superstitious, had to make sure the laundry was done the day of the meet because she had to wear the same clean underwear and socks. She also had a special running diet of spaghetti, Pepsi, and Swan's chocolate ice cream. On our way home from her first championship, I saw a sign at a gas station. Cases of 16-ounce bottles of Pepsi on sale. We stopped and bought her 10 cases of Pepsi for her prize. Carried it up to her bedroom before she arrived home. After her junior year, she was on the phone every night talking with colleges recruiting her. I remember most the call from Harvard University, talking for an hour or more. I thought, oh no, we will never get to see her run that far away. Next, the Air Force Academy in Colorado flew her out for a weekend. It was fun, but when she got home, she said she could never walk that straight white line every day and salute every officer she met. But I tell her now, you would be long retired from her murder. The Iowa coach invited her for a visit. but she would have to prove herself before being offered much of a scholarship. The UNI women's coach wanted her to run, but she only wanted a male coach like Mr. David Chofer. Then we visited Northeast Missouri State University, now Truman University, meeting with Coach John Cochran and his girls team. We were impressed as Coach Cochran and Carrie shared the same birthday. From this, she received full ride and had a very successful career qualifying for NCAA Division II championships all 4 years, earning All-American honors twice in cross country. In track and field, she specialized in the 3,000 and 10,000 meter races, winning 12 conference championships and qualifying for the national meet 5 times, earning All-American 4 times. Her junior and senior years, she finished second in the 10,000 meter race. Her senior year, she also made the qualifying standard for the Division I championships a week later at Duke University, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. So we hung around all week, seeing the sights along the way. At Duke, she placed 10th, ending her college running career. Carrie still owns or shares 9 Truman State School records. She previously has been inducted into the Iowa Track Coaches Hall of Fame in 1996 and Truman State in 2002. Raleigh and I had many long, memorable trips coast to coast, loading up the motorhome with our 2 poodles, Skipper and Katie, many times driving all night to get to the race in time. I'm sure I have used all or more of my allotted 5 minutes, she told me, and will present my daughter, Carrie Greenwood Winkle, whom our whole family has been so proud of her accomplishments.
I made it through 2 speech classes, one with Mr. Dave Shelter in my life, and I wanted to be a high school health teacher, but 2 speech classes were enough public speaking for me. So I ended up becoming a VA nurse. And before you give a medication when you're a nurse, you have to confirm the 5 rights: the right patient, right medication, right dose, right route, and the right time. The time was the 1980s in small town Cascade, and Mr. David Shelter, the cross-country coach, planned the right routes and just the right doses to train his runners, with the goal for runners to race to their best times. Sunday runs on the gravel roads where I chased those boys, my teammates, repeat 800s, hills, including the pit at the golf course, the right medication. Coach developed race strategies for each individual athlete, including motivators, yes, considering our personalities. Maybe the spaghetti, Pepsi, and ice cream also qualified as medication. And just enough rest to peak for the important races, such as state. The right patient. This is most important. In small town Cascade, the right people lived, ran, coached, taught, worked, played, and cheered. Every single person in my class was nice to me. Every teacher was nice to me. People cheered for me, and the newspaper wrote about me. And Mr. Dave Shelfer led me to my successes and helped me find my next adventure running in college. Coaches, teachers, principals, fellow athletes, friends, family, and strangers too. Thanks to all of you for helping me run my best. And for this Cascade Hall of Fame honor. Thanks.
So every March, the NCAA likes to tell those of us who watch its championship basketball tournaments that a large majority of college athletes go pro in something other than sports. Well, our next inductee is someone who can say that they're an exception to that. Greg McDermott put together an outstanding basketball career in just 2 varsity seasons at Cascade. He established a handful of school records, including ones for points in a game and season scoring average that still stand to this day. His senior season, McDermott was named All-State and the MVP of the postseason All-Star game put on by the Iowa Basketball Coaches Association. He continued his playing career at the University of Northern Iowa, where he was a member of the 1,000 Point Club, And after a year playing professionally in Europe, McDermott entered the coaching ranks where he has also excelled. McDermott has amassed more than 500 career victories, led teams to that big tournament in March 10 times. Now, in addition to basketball, he was also a member of the first Cascade baseball team to make it to the state tournament in 1982. Now, I could stand here and tell you all about his basketball accomplishments, but that'd probably be a little hollow for quite possibly the least talented attendee of the Greg McDermott basketball camp. So instead, we're going to bring up somebody that does know a little bit about basketball, one of our inaugural Hall of Famers from last year, Coach Al Marshall.
I'd like to congratulate the other inductees, all very important. John Sullivan, who really supported high school athletics and shone a light on them, pioneer. Jim O'Mara, our first principal, who supported and encouraged all of the athletic programs. Carrie Greenwood Winkle, who was the gold standard of the many outstanding girl runners that we had at Cascade. And Marty Sutherland, who I had the pleasure of coaching, and holds the career assist record in basketball. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Greg. We're going through his journey in basketball, and where it started. He was with the program his freshman and sophomore year, and we saw him coming up. We thought we had a pretty good player coming up through the ranks. But his junior year was the first year with the varsity, and he was off to a rather uneven start to the season. And partway through the season, Larry Tagus and I got him into a room off the gym. And I calmly, rationally, logically suggested perhaps he could do more to help the team and be more productive. The next night he came back to practice and he was terrific. He was an offensive force. I don't think there's another player in the gym that got a rebound all night. He just went everywhere. He came to practice, came to me after practice and said, "Was that good enough for you?" And I replied, "Let's see me do it again tomorrow night." And the next night was the first night, I think, in his career, but not the last, that he took the advice of the great American philosopher, Yogi Berra, who said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." And he was great the next night. He was great the rest of the season. He averaged 12 points a game for the entire season in junior year, but 18 and 12, 18 points per game and 12 rebounds per game after our little chat. Okay, so it was much better. So, because he had a strong finish to the season, there were a number of colleges that were interested in starting recruiting him. One of which was Northern Iowa. And Northern Iowa wanted to see him play before the early signing period. But the early signing period was also before we started practice. So this is also before now the new gym, the new Fine Arts Edition, the Weber Center. So the only gym we had at the school was being involved with play practice all the time. So we had to set up a open gym workout type situation down at the Memorial Building, the hall. Okay? So if you want to be a big guy and run the court real well, the hall really helps you. We also put on the team opposite Greg a couple of his brothers. And Greg looked good. He had a good night. And partway through, after a while, I watched him play for a while, the assistant coach from UNI said he hadn't eaten anything, he was hungry. So I took him around the corner to the narrow gauge, where I got him a beer, a couple of beers and a burger, and he liked what he saw, and I kept reinforcing it. So a couple of days later, Greg was on his way to UNI. But before he went to UNI, he had a high school season to play at Cascade. And the season he played in senior year was one of the very finest, perhaps the finest single season we've had in the history of Cascade basketball. He was so dominant that he only saw 1 1/2 games of man-to-man defense. The first game of the year was against Anamosa. They played man-to-man. He scored 46 points. Still a school record. The second one was shortly after Christmas. Beckman decided to play man-to-man against us. Greg had 25 at halftime. And then Tommy Jr. decided maybe try something else the second half. His senior year, he set a record for average points per game, 25.2 points per game, with every defense set against him. Numerous double and triple teams. So this is an outstanding, and it still stands. He also set the record for rebounds at 12.0 points per game. He also set the record for most free throws attempted and made by a large margin. Okay. Now, as far as assists go, let's just say that when Marty broke the record, Greg was not the previous record holder. At the end of the season, he was named All-State, both the Iowa Daily Press Association as Wayne Register, and as they mentioned, he was chosen for the Iowa Basketball Coaches Association and was named Most Valuable Player of the 2A game. Now, going to UNI then, he redshirted his first year, and he played 4 years with varsity. He was either a part-time or full-time starter the entire 4 years. Part-time early on, full-time later on. He was recorded second team called Conference Honors. He's a member of the 1,000 Point Club. And most importantly, he met his wife Teresa at UNI. That was a good fork in the road, right? After college, played 1 year professionally in Switzerland, came back, started his coaching career, was an assistant coach for a number of seasons, several seasons at North Dakota. He was in North Dakota. Then he got his first head job at Wayne State College in Nebraska, a Division II school, and he revitalized the program. He was there 5 years, for the last 3 years to the NCAA tournament, and then he moved on to North Dakota State. He was only at North Dakota State for 1 year before his alma mater came calling. And the alma mater got him back to UNI to be their head coach. In the third season at UNI, they qualified for the NCAA tournament. Rather unexpected. It wasn't a total shock, but one of the tournaments to get the bid, otherwise it wouldn't have probably got in. And the Des Moines Register was all over. There's a lot of media coverage. They came out to Cascade. Basically did a feature, and the feature was Iowa boy returns to alma mater, does good. That's what it was. So they came out and they interviewed some players that were with him. They interviewed me. And one of the questions they asked me was, did I know Greg was going to be a coach when he was in high school? And I said, he had great leadership skills, an engaging personality. He was intelligent, hardworking, dedicated. But no, I didn't know he was going to be a coach. But I knew he was going to be successful at whatever he wanted to do. And he has been. 2 more years at UNI, 2 more NCAA tournaments, and he went to Iowa State University in Ames. Kind of an aside, this isn't about Greg necessarily. One of the things that happened to him at Iowa State is at Ames, he went to enroll his son at Ames High School. He was greeted by the principal, Mike McGrory. I'm not sure how many of you that knew Mike in high school had that on your bingo card. Anyway, after 4 years at Iowa State, the coach at Creighton left to go to Oregon. And the athletic director at Creighton had been in the same, Creighton was in the same league with UNI. He was familiar with Greg's work as a coach, and more importantly, his character as a person. This was the person he wanted to lead and head up the Creighton program. So Greg went to Creighton, great success almost immediately, winning conference championships and conference tournament championships, NCAA bids. And then he got one last fork in the road while he was at Creighton. With very little lead time, Creighton left Missouri Valley and went to the Big East. Now that sounds like a great thing. The thing people don't understand is that when a school moves from a mid-major to a major conference, or from Division II to Division I, the coach that is there when they make that change almost always gets fired. They don't wait around long enough to see what's going to happen. Just think about it. The players are in the program now, the players are recruited, and the next two classes he's already working with are being recruited to beat Northern Iowa, Bradley, Illinois State, and now they're expected to beat Villanova, Georgetown, Xavier. They usually don't give enough time, they don't have enough runway to make it work. This may be his greatest accomplishment as a coach, really. To come out the other side, be successful, has won Big East titles with both the regular season and the tournament, Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden. And this year, he has a wonderful team returning. They are going to be preseason top 10 in all the polls when they come out of there already. Okay? Greg is already a member of the Iowa High School Athletic Association Basketball Hall of Fame. He's a member of the Wayne State College Athletic Hall of Fame. He's a member of the Northern Iowa Athletic Hall of Fame. And tonight we welcome Greg back to Cascade and to the Cascade High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Thank you. He's a lot nicer now than he used to be. I didn't have Mike McGurry on my list of people I was going to talk about, but now I have to. I walked around that corner with my two boys. Nick was going to be a junior, Doug was going to be a freshman. And the administrative assistant says, oh, actually the principal's going to show you around. I said, oh, that's kind of cool. And Gooch walks around the corner. And I gave him a look like, what in the hell are you doing? And he gave me a look like, what in the hell are you doing? And we kind of gave this look at each other. I won't say anything. You don't say anything. Everything's great. But first of all, I'd like to thank the selection committee. This is an awesome honor. It's great to be back here. I've been to enough of these where I've sat out there, and my philosophy has always been we're here for a good time, not a long time, so I'm not going to be here that long. But I'd like to congratulate Carrie on her award. She was a freshman when I was a senior when she won that state championship. Mr. O'Mara, congratulations. Thankless job. Not many of us went into his office and told him what a great job he was doing. Usually it was a rather unpleasant meeting. John Sullivan was a great supporter of Cascade Athletics and what he did, just to support athletes and support our teams. God rest his soul, but if the Hawkeye game was here on, I'd probably go over and flip the Cyclone if the game on just we had a lot of banter with the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes. And, PJ and I and Cindy and I grew up together. Kind of a funny story. I get a call from my son Doug, who's with the San Antonio Spurs, in the fall. And Doug says, hey, do you know a Sullivan that grew up in Arizona? They said, from Cascade? I said, yeah. He said, well, their son Logan is our physical therapist. He's working on my ankle. Such a small world that PJ and Cindy's son and Doug ended up together. And then, Marty Sutherland was playing at UNI when I was coaching there, and then went on to coach with Rick Heller, who's a close friend of mine, and now has obviously had a great career at the University of Iowa. I've got a lot of thank yous, and I'll get into them here in a second, but obviously my parents and my brothers, the neighborhood crew, we grew up on a farm. We didn't have games planned for us back at that time. You had to kind of figure it out on the run. And, Tim and Randy McDermott across the field, Mark Ryder down the street. We did a lot together. And then my coaches, even back to junior high, Louis Besler and Dave Gross, and then in high school, Coach Rowling as a freshman, and Coach David Shover as a sophomore, and then Coach Marshall and Larry Takis during varsity. And So as we were driving over here, my wife Teresa's here tonight. Teresa, thanks for being here, coming all the way over here. But I was thinking about, all right, how did I end up here? And what did it take for all this to happen? And as I thought about it, there was a lot of teammates that supported me throughout my career. And a lot of friends that I made as a result of my experience playing baseball at Cascade, playing basketball at Cascade. You know, Bones Dauphin, Pat Dauphin, Mike Weber are here, Gary Drew's here, good friend, Steve Weber. But, you know, Bones, Pat, and Tuba and I, we're on a daily chat where we communicate almost daily. There's a big group that comes out to Omaha at least once a year. Mike Huffman, Marty Healy, Jeff King, that crew. Bones and the gang come out. Sherry Reese brings her whole family out once a year. And that's what makes it cool about being from a small town. I think there's a connection there that maybe doesn't exist in larger cities and makes it pretty cool. You may have saw the fight online with the Golden State Warriors yesterday. Draymond Green popped Jordan Poole. I'm well prepared in practice to break those up because I broke Bones and Pat's fight. So that happens to me. The Dolphin boys have prepared me well. My mom couldn't be here tonight, but she once famously said when I was about to head out with the Dolphin boys, I said, "Mom, I'll be home early." And she said, "The only time you're home early with the Dolphin boys is early in the morning." She was right. And then there's a lot of former players that, you know, I know this is Cascade High School, but obviously when I grew up it was Akron, that really inspired me to want to be them. I remember sitting in the gym watching Brian McDermott play, and then Brian ended up recruiting me when he was assistant at the University of South Dakota, and then went on to a very successful coaching career himself. But he's one of the best high school players I've ever seen, and I think Al will concur how good he was. Kevin Dauphin lived a couple miles down the road from me, watched those teams play, and was just in awe of Kevin and how good a player he was. And I wanted to be like those guys, and I think, again, when you're in a small town, you aspire to be like those that come before you, and it kind of blaze the trail for you to follow. And I was fortunate that I had coaches that were teachers. You know, I think of myself, 34 years coaching, and some of the things that are important to me, and as I think back, there are probably some things that I probably didn't appreciate enough from the guys that coached me at the time. Those of us that played baseball or freshman basketball for Coach Rowling know that he was a stickler for the details. Fundamentals were so important, and he was relentless in that regard in making sure you were fundamentally sound in everything that you do. And I certainly coach my teams that way now. Coach Davis over the sophomore year, I think what I appreciated most about Coach is he wanted to make sure you had fun with the game. We all start playing the game because we love the game. And Coach didn't take the joy out of the game. And it's something that I talk about in recruiting, and I think as I've grown and gotten older as a coach, it's become really important to me that I don't want to be one of those coaches that coaches the joy right out of the game because there's so much pressure to win. I want to make sure that the guys that play for me have an enjoyable experience, and I think I got a lot of that from Coach Davis. Coach Marshall, he instilled in me the discipline to be an everyday guy and an every play guy. And the conversation that he explained could not have been farther from the truth. It was a very one-sided conversation. I think Larry Takis was just there to make sure I didn't pull a Draymond Green on him. And it's true. I think he set up the game at the Hall, made me look fast. Like, can you believe how fast he's getting from one end to the other? Rick and Dave were guarding me or pretending to guard me. It was maybe the biggest fix in the history of college. And the 3 pitchers of beer he fed, the assistant coach afterwards, so he had something to do with that. And it was the quickest commitment in the history of, they said, we're going to offer you a scholarship. I said, okay, I'll take it. You want to think about it? No, I'm taking it. But coach taught me to be, you got to play every play. And I did say that the next practice. I said, is that good enough for you? Kind of in jest. But 9 times out of 10 wasn't good enough with coach. If you expect to do it when the lights are on and the pressure's high, you've got to do it every single day. You've got to do it every single play. I learned that from him. And then the late Larry Takis was really important to me. He translated what Coach Marshall yelled at me into a language that I could understand. And you know, he was just a great friend to all of us. He had a way of communicating that was incredible. I spent a lot of time at his house with he and Linda. A bunch of us did when we were growing up, and he had a huge impact on me as a young adult. I had brothers that really challenged me. Rick never let me win, never. You know, you're supposed to build somebody up and then, you know, knock him down and then build him back up. So Rick knocked me down, and then I'd play scooter, and then my confidence was back. But scooter was good for my confidence. But, you know, they'd work on my quickness. You know, remember those pump BB guns? Yeah. Run. You know, I'm bobbing and weaving, and I don't bob and weave very fast. And they were pelting me in the ass with those things. That would get you in trouble in this day and age. But they taught me toughness. Rick and Dave taught me toughness. They taught Scooter and Marty and I all of that, and that was good. And then I had 2 parents that instilled the right values in me, and all of us actually. How to treat people, you know, how to handle adversity. You know, my dad lost an arm in 1970. My mom lost her first husband in a car accident. But I don't ever remember one day where their adversity and the things that went bad in their life impacted us as kids. They shielded us from that. They never said, why me? Why did this happen to us? And I think that really prepares you for what's ahead in life. And I'll always be appreciative of what they've done for me. And then lastly, a community that was incredibly supportive. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And you know, Bob and Bernadette Stainer are here. And I said to Bernadette tonight, you did a great job raising me. Because when I wasn't home, I was at their house, or I was up with Carol Dauphin, or I was with Larry or Linda Takis. And you know, we as parents now, as our kids grow up, it's so important who are they spending time with when they're not in your home. And I was spending time with the right people. And you know, Gary Drew sent me a text today about, you know, where you grow up, when you grow up, and how you grow up. And it's really true. I mean, I grew up at a time we did, you know, PJ and Carrie, where it wasn't the teacher's fault when you got a bad grade on a test. We were held accountable to things that we didn't do correctly. And I appreciate that. We grew up in a place that was really, really supportive and continues to be supportive. As I've said, all the friends that come out and watch us play, or a text or email I get from somebody from Cascade. So this is an incredible honor for me. I really appreciate it, and always very proud to be from Cascade, Iowa.
Now, last year when we had our first Hall of Fame ceremony, one of the common themes that we heard in the remarks from Coaches David Schofer, Marshall, and Rolling was the atmosphere that was there at Cascade High School, particularly in the early days, that encouraged success both in the classroom as well as through extracurricular activities. And they gave a lot of the credit for creating that atmosphere to our next inductee, the very first principal of Cascade High School, Mr. Jim O'Mara. He served as CHS's principal from the day the school opened in 1976 until 1998. And during that time, the school's athletic offerings grew to include football, wrestling, the entire girls' sports program. And in addition, he also oversaw the addition of facilities like the Weber Center and the football field that now bears his name. In addition to his time as an administrator, he was also Cascade's softball coach from 1994 to 1997, leading the program to its first state tournament appearance in that first season. And here to induct Mr. O'Mara into the Hall of Fame is former Cascade Mayor Rich Knapp.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be able to introduce a great friend of mine, James P. O'Mara. Back in 1976, a difficult situation encompassed the communities of Cascade and Bernard with the closing of Akron High School and Western Dubuque School District purchasing Akron and transforming the parochial school into a second public school in Western Dubuque County. Within a few months, the doors would need to be opened to those same students in a new direction. With a new school on the horizon, the first thing that needed to be done was the hiring of someone to lead Cascade High School into the future with big hopes of continued success. After consideration, the Western Dubuque School Board knew that there was only one person who would be able to make a simple but delicate transition to a new opportunity for the families within the Cascade-Bernard community. Jim O'Mara was asked to take on that responsibility of being principal of the new Cascade High School. Jim O'Mara thus began the construction of forming a roster of educators and coaches that would help further educating the youth of our area. Jim O'Mara was the one person who, in my mind, was instrumental in forming Cascade High School after the change from Akron High School to Cascade High School and the beginning of Cougar Country. Jim was the perfect person to be appointed principal and lead a new era. Jim O'Mara came on board to establish not only a high academic institution, but also a well-rounded campus with great sports teams, band, FFA, and industrial arts. Jim was a hands-on person, one who was involved not only in the academic side, with supplying his role of educators with time, material, and opportunity to prepare the students with the best ways to succeed in life after high school, but also hiring top quality coaches to run the Cougar sports scene. Jim was known for his great support in giving his coaches, Al Marshall, Bob David Chover, Jerry Rowling, Gene Horsfield, and others, 100% backing by building our youth into better students and athletes. Jim made sure that the coaches were given the time and support for successful teams. When called upon, Jim also took over the reins of the girls' softball program for a number of years. Whether it was setting up temporary football field at the American Legion Field, spearheading the construction of the football track, now known as James P. O'Mara Field, the Weber Center, or additional classrooms and libraries, Jim was always involved. He never was afraid of doing the work, both physically and as a leadership role. I can remember many nights and days having sports booster club meetings and making plans for the Pee Wee Wrestling Tournament, chili suppers, and other fundraising events to promote Cascade athletics. Jim was always attended those meetings, supporting the ideas of how the future promote athletics in Cougar Country. Jim would remain with the Cougars for 23 years, 1976 to 1998. Who would ever think that a Farley Jayhawk would ever have such an influence on Cascade High School? It's my great honor to give you Jim O'Mara, 2022 Cascade High School Athletic Hall of Famer. Congratulations.
I'll be a little slower than the rest of them. Age sets in, we'll get that way. I want to start off by thanking Rich for the introduction and the comments, and also for all the hours of work he put in on the baseball and football field, making the turf and the like the best around. And I'll always remember him as being the voice of the Cougars in football and in baseball. Just great to work with. I'd also like to thank the Booster Club and the selection committee for organizing and having this program tonight. Booster Club is a great support for the program here at Cascade High School. I also want to thank my Carol. She is my best friend, my soulmate, and my wife for the last 55 years, and has, between us, have 4 wonderful children, and they're all here tonight with our 12 grandchildren. I'd also like to thank my 2 older sisters. They were able to make it tonight, June and Helen, both from Epworth, and it's awesome to have Carol, the kids, and the sisters here at this time celebrating our time in Cascade. I'd also like to thank Steve Rutz for being my assistant principal at Cascade for 22 years. Steve and I made a great team. He was my first hire as a principal. Also, Phil Collar came in and has served 14 years as AD at Cascade, and I think is continuing to serve to this day. The person that helped me most probably in softball was Sherry Thornton, because she was my pitching coach. And, I don't do a very good job working with kids and pitching. I think I have a few other strengths in that. Brett Belding and Chad Gale were also assistants, and they helped tremendously. I feel humbled to be here tonight in the same class as Carrie and Greg and Marty. These are some of the best athletes the Cascade High School has produced. John Sullivan was the best sports journalist, newspaper editor in this area, and has been for years. He was a positive influence on all of Western Dubuque area, and I got to know him very well when I was an AD at Western Dubuque High School. He was a great man, and I really admired him. And I told PJ that before. Life for each one of us is our own personal footsteps through this world. For me, my trip to Cascade was preceded by 18 years, as Rich said, of being a Jayhawk at Farley St. John's. And then 4 years of being a Dewhawk at Loras College. And then 9 more years of being a Bobcat at Western Dubuque as a teacher, an assistant principal, and AD and coach. In 1976, we came to Cascade to take a giant step in my career. I can't believe, I think most of you can think about this too, that was 46 years ago. 46 years ago. You know, time has a way of moving quickly and catching you unaware of the passing years. It seems like just yesterday that I was young and embarking on a new life. Yet in a way, it seems like eons ago. I wonder where all the years went. Last year's induction ceremony, I remembered for everyone and reminded them of the 31 members of our first staff and about our great support staff. I used to tell the staff, we only have one opportunity to make a great first impression. So please, make this year as good as possible for both students, parents, and the community. In that first year, we started many new programs, including football and wrestling, and all the girls' sports programs. Charlotte Schmidt was an outstanding band director, started an amazing band and a great band boosters program. So when I look back at how we did that first year and made our first impression, I have to be happy. We started football and wrestling. We finished second at the boys' state cross-country meet. We took first in the first band contest at the state fair that the band here at Cascade was involved with. And we had to be exceptionally proud. We won the Eastern Iowa Conference in both boys and girls basketball. And the boys team, I think it might have been Al's record, had 22-game winning streak. That was a great year for us. Our first year was a success, as have most of the 22 years I spent here at Cascade, because of the many great parents and volunteers that came forward to help when we needed it. Flute Weber helped with grading and building the football field. He was the one that went out and found the bleachers that we have up there. And the band parents built the booth, the concession stand and the storage area. The Booster Club built a number of things that really helped us for years. As the years went on and the program continued to grow, we began to realize that we needed better practice facilities, and that's been mentioned a couple of times tonight. The school district passed 2 bond issues that helped us tremendously in our crowded conditions. The first gave us enough to have an industrial arts area and an agri area. The second one gave us a new library and science area. This allowed us to get rid of the 11 portables that were behind the school. I'm not sure everybody here remembers that we had 11 portables behind the school. The students that went there will remember that. Anyway, one Saturday morning, after a home football game, when I was still tired, the doorbell rang in my house, and it was Ellen and Greg Modernhoff and their wives, telling me that Jim Weber would be willing to finance a building for a new practice facility if the district would maintain the building once it was built. The district agreed to that as soon as I brought it up at the next board meeting. Thus, the Weber Center was born. The students and parents of Cascade should always be thankful to Jim, and I'll always be indebted to Greg and Al, Sharon, and Mona. The Weber Center has been a great addition to the entire community. In March of 1994, Mrs. Horsfield came in and said she was getting tired of teaching 4 different sports during every year, and she wanted to get out for softball, excuse me, I'll get it right, out of softball so that she could take a vacation down to Atlanta to see her aunt. And I said, okay, I'll work with that, because at one time I had helped her when my daughter Jenny was going through the softball program. And that 1 year eventually ended up leading to 4 years. I really enjoyed coaching the girls. I just loved the sense of humor that the girls had. I would always go home from practice with a smile on my face. They taught me how to chill out, keep things in perspective. And as I was telling a couple of the girls tonight when they were talking to me, I even learned how to sing Achy Breaky Heart. I knew we could be good at it, and if they put the time in. What they didn't know was I was going to schedule 40 to 45 games a year. The more you play and the better the competition, the better you get. I loved every one of those girls that we coached during that time. We had some very intelligent students. Some, in fact, all 4 years, we earned the Scholastic Academic Achievement Award that the state gave out. The girls pursued careers as teachers, principals, nurses, pharmacists, engineering, and a lot of different business areas. We went to state 1 year, came up 1 game short on 2 other occasions. We lost to Assumption 1-0, and we got beat by Grinnell 6-4. I remember those losses as much as the, well, I shouldn't say as much as the win, but I will always remember the game that district game that we played. We were down 1 run in the top of the 7th inning, if you can imagine this, and 2 outs. And I just asked Annie tonight, do you remember how you got on base with 2 outs? And she looked at me and said, nah, I don't remember that. Anyway, I believe it was a walk, but knowing her, she never took walks, so she probably got hit. And then she gets on first. Harry McDermott comes up. I tell her, well, go with this a little more. Harry gets on first. Harry comes up. She hits a double, and that puts runners in second and third. Now we're 1 down, 2 outs, runners in second and third. You know, it's time to do the important thing. I said, Hail Mary. And I probably should have said more. But anyway, as it turned out, I went in and I talked to Aaron, and Aaron had just called off the first 5 pitches. You can imagine, 5 pitches in a row. She was trying. And she said, Coach, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, Aaron, it's real simple. Put the bat on the whole ball, not just part of it. I went back, said another quick Hail Mary, bang! I blew it right over the third baseman's head. Wasn't hit hard, but it was just enough. Kerry came rolling around from second base in the home. We go up 2-1. And I thought, oh my God. So, we get the situation that we needed to have. We win. And in the bottom of the inning, we're playing a very good team, a Union high school team. And they're very, very good. And they've come back in most of their games all year long. So with a 2-1 lead, the first person up hits a medium Texas fly ball out to right field. Kelly Stoll goes out and makes a fantastic catch. And then I called timeout, kicked off to Kerry and Danny and Bound, and I said, let's do it. And they went in and they struck out the next two batters. We ended up winning 2-1. I was the happiest guy around. We made our way to the first tournament. Now that win is probably one of the most important wins that Lori Turn has had. She made the Iowa High School Girls Athletic Union Hall of Fame with 112 wins. And I think that's the most wins we've ever had at Cascade, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, in 1998, I decided to leave Cascade for Armstrong Ringstead to be their superintendent for 4 years. In 2001, I became superintendent of Curtis Inc. and worked there for 6 years before retiring. On retiring in Curtis Inc. in the field of education, I became county supervisor for 7 years. I was county supervisor for Crawford County in that area. And then in 2014, we moved to Indianola. I completely retired at that time. Yeah, as an old baseball and softball coach, I kind of look at life as a trip around the bases. My run from first to second included stops at Farley, Loras, and Western Maine. My run to second included all my years here at Cascade. My run to third included stops at Armstrong Ringstead, Prairie du Chien, and Indianola. I know that I lived all of the trip around the bases. I have glimpses of how it was back then as I was going from base to base. However, here I am, rounding third and heading home with neuropathy, arthritic back. The last run of my life catches me by surprise. How did I get here so fast? Where did the years go and where did my youth go? I remember seeing older people through the years and thinking those older people were years away from me. That I was only running from first and that the run from third was so far off I could hardly visualize it or imagine it fully. Yet, here it is. My friends are retired and getting gray. They are not like the ones I remember that were young and vibrant. Each day now, I find that just taking a shower is a real challenge for the day. And taking a nap is not a treat anymore, it's mandatory. Yes, I have regrets. There are things I wish I had done differently and things that I should have done. But truly, there are many things I'm happy to have done here in Cascade. It's all in a lifetime. It's all in each one of our trips around the bases. I'm extremely happy of my run from first to second here in Cascade, and I'm extremely happy to have been nominated by the Booster Club for this award tonight. May God continue to bless Cascade and our Cascade Cougars.
When this Hall of Fame was created a couple years ago, those of us on the committee wanted to make sure that there was room for people who devoted significant amounts of time and energy to supporting Cascade athletics, but didn't necessarily fit into the roles of former student athlete, coach, or administrator. And so our next honoree will be the first person to go into the Hall of Fame as a contributor. John Sullivan was a newspaper man in the classic sense. He joined the family business in operating the Cascade Pioneer in the early 1950s, following his graduation from the University of Iowa, where he played on a Big Ten championship baseball team. Eventually, he was elevated to the role of editor-publisher, but his true passion was covering high school sports. In his weekly Sports with Sully column, he was able to recognize thousands of Cascade athletes over the years. Among his honors are the Iowa Newspaper Association's Master Editor designation, the Iowa High School Athletic Association's Media Award, and a spot in the Dubuque County Baseball Hall of Fame, which he helped found. John passed away last December at the age of 94. Here to introduce his sons, Jake and Kelly, is another one of our inaugural class of Hall of Famers, Coach Bob David Schiller.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees this year. It's a great honor, and all of you are really well deserving of it. And I'm real happy to have been part of some of these people in their athletic endeavors. Certainly Carrie, 3-time state championship, one of the highlights in my coaching career, and being one of the people that got Greg started there, and now it's amazing because every so often, I'll meet somebody and I'll say from Cascade, and they say, well, you know Greg McDermott? I said, I coached him. You did? So, Tim, I'm certainly happy with you that you hired me, and it's really been a great career for me, and I wouldn't trade anything for it. When PJ asked me to give the introduction for his father, I considered it a great honor because Jim was a personal friend of mine for many years there. John loved sports and was a great athlete himself. He was on a University of Iowa baseball team, but he was also on a team that won the Big Ten championship. Like myself, John was a great Yankee fan. And we had many great discussions over the years, and maybe this might be our year. PJ said that sports brought a community together. He said that outside of a military conflict or a national disaster, nothing brought a community together more than sports there. And as I said, that was his philosophy, and I think it really held true for all of us here as time went on. Shortly after I started teaching in 1961, I got to know John very well because he was editor of the Cascade Pioneer Advertiser, and I was the cross-country coach at Cascade at Akron High School at that time. And we had many meetings over the years there. John worked hard. John was not a 40-hour man. John was a 7-day-week man. The reason why I know is because most of our conversations were on Sunday mornings, while John was writing his weekly column there at Sports with Sully. As I said, I would do the talking and he would do the writing. And his great coverage of our meet meant a great deal to myself and the runners. In the many years that we worked together, he never misquoted me once. Unlike a young lady in the Cedar Rapids Gazette that interviewed me after our girls had won their second consecutive state championship. She asked me, how are you going to be next year? I said, well, we're graduating 2 of our top runners, but I think we could still be competitive. Next day, in the Cedar Rapids Gazette, it said, Cascade cross-country coach predicts third straight championship. Needless to say, I did not let her interview me the following year. John particularly liked writing about any type of games between Cascade, West Dubuque, and Beckman. Certainly these were the three towns or three schools that had a lot in common, their rivalries, this and that, and they were the hottest, topics in the local hangout. And these were in these circulation description of the Pioneer there. And he particularly liked discussing with me about Don Hermson of Western Dubuque. Don Hermson was the coach in most of the sports I was involved in, and that was track and cross country and sophomore basketball at one time. And John would kid me all the time about how you going to do this and that. And I remember one particular incident. It was up at Western Dubuque. It was a conference cross-country track meet. And the score wound up a tie. Now that's unbelievable. 21 events, and it wound up a tie between us and West Dubuque. And John promptly said, well, let the two coaches run a 100-yard dash and decide. That didn't happen. PJ said that his mother Lois wasn't always happy that he was gone 2 or 3 nights a week taking pictures. But she realized that this was necessary for John to run a successful business here. And it was his way of giving back to the people a paper that they could really be proud of. John loved the competitiveness of sports. And after his playing days were over, there's nothing he enjoyed more than writing about sports there. Then when he sold the business, he made all the pictures that he took available to the general public there. In addition to his work for the Cascade Pioneers, he made great contributions to the Cascade community. He was a member of the American Legion 528 for 75 years, and a year ago he received that honor. And also he was Grand Marshal for the homecoming parade in 2015, thanking him for his great coverage over the years. I really think a lot of the credit should go to John for the successes that the athletic teams had at Cascade High School. There's nothing you like better, than reading about yourself and the successes that your team had over the years with that. Along with John, I had activities with his 2 sons, Kelly and PJ. Kelly was a member of one of my state cross-country teams, and PJ had the leading role. Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, my favorite production. So, I'm accepting the reward now for his father, PJ Sullivan.
Thank you, Coach. And thanks to the nominating committee. I know there's a lot of former athletes and supporters of Cascade Athletics that are very deserving of this honor, so Dad would be truly humbled if he was here tonight. I'd also like to congratulate the inductees tonight. Carrie, happy belated birthday. Amazing bios that you have in front of you on the table there, and expanded bios that were handed out and published in the Cascade Pioneer. The accomplishments that each one of the inductees tonight have made in their career and even after their career at Cascade High School are just amazing. Although one stat did stand out to me. Greg, you had a 978 fielding percentage in baseball? I ran into Chuck Modernock at Happy Joe's yesterday. Chuck and I had a conversation. I said, Chuck, do you remember Greg being that good in the field? And he said, Sully, I think every ball was hit directly at him. Because anytime he get a ball thrown from third or short, a foot or two left or right, it was 50-50 whether he was going to catch it. You're a good fielder, Greg, good player. Running and owning a family-owned newspaper, weekly newspaper, had unique challenges. The fact that Dad was super competitive and a perfectionist added a new wrinkle and a new level of unique challenges. There were a lot of things he could have handed off to other family members, employees from the paper, but he chose to do them all himself. And to Coach's point, he worked countless hours. There were 3, 4, 5 nights a week sometimes that he was not around. But we all knew what he was doing. He was supporting the family, and that's what he enjoyed doing. He would often make comments like, the news never stops. We're recording history every week when we publish the paper. And I don't think that ever hit me when I was a kid. Until I started to know what they were doing with the Tri-County Historical Society and some of the things that Bones posts on Facebook. Pictures of history, things that Dad did, pictures that he took, articles that he wrote. It is the history for our future generations to see. And I just don't think I fully appreciated that as a kid. As Coach said, Dad loved sports. He loved covering all sports. It was his labor of love. He really did view it as a way to unite and rally the community around whatever sport was happening in that time of the year. It was more than coverage, though, for him. He didn't just show up and take a photo or two. It wasn't just a box score that he would print. He needed to have what happened in the game. He needed the ear and the eyes of the coaches that coached all the sports. So Coach Rowling, Coach Marshall, Coach David Schover, Coach Horsfield, all of the coaches spent so much time with Dad. Coach Marshall, I can picture you sitting in Dad's office for 90 minutes every Saturday morning, telling him about the game, what happened, how the team was doing, how the season was going to go, who played well, who didn't, who was up next. So I thank you all for that time, because that truly was his labor of love to make sure that he was delivering not just a box score, not just a couple photos. And Dad, because he was a perfectionist, really held himself up to the level of the TH, the Gazette, even the Des Moines Register. He wanted to be viewed and used in the same sentence as those newspapers when he talked about the sports section. As Coach said, he had several favorite events that he would do himself. Later on in his years, he would start to hire other photographers and journalists to take some of the workload off of him. He acquiesced to Mom, and she was very happy. But against WD or Beckman were always games that Dad looked forward to. His favorite event every year was the Fillmore Cross Country event, hands down. It was an event that was basically over in 18 to 20 minutes, Phil, fair to say. And I'm talking about old-time photography. This wasn't like you took photos and scrolled through, did I get it? Oh, that's a good one, I can go to the next one. Dad took rolls of photographs at every cross-country meet. He'd start at the top, wait for the gun to go off, get as many pictures as he could, jump in the golf cart, driven by his pilot, Goose Cowder, race down to the midway point in the track, try to get more photos, try to find those Cascade kids, WD kids, Beckman kids, race back to the top for the finish. Now, historically, the cross-country meet was on Friday afternoon at 3:30. It was hard to say how many old styles Goose had under his belt. But I can only imagine that ride going all the way down the hill. Dad still claimed that at one point they were airborne going up the hill at the bottom of the 6th. But he loved that. He loved the cross-country meet. He loved reporting on it. And all the coaches into it. His Sports with Sully column, he literally would write that Sunday morning and he'd come home laughing because he was either making fun of Iowa State or the Cubs. And as soon as Wednesday's paper was published, you could count on 8 Kurt walking down the street into his office saying, Sully, what's up? Lay off the Cubs. Seriously, what's going on? Or Doc Beecher would whip his truck in and get out and go, "What's wrong with the Cyclones? Why? Why are you picking on the Cyclones?" And he loved that. He loved to ruffle those feathers. It was somewhat of a cult following in 1984, and I didn't realize this till years later, that Chuck Modernach was involved in an intramural softball team at Iowa State, and the team was called Sports with Summit. These were their jerseys. He still had that t-shirt, Chuck, when he passed away last year, so if you want it, you can come and get it. As I said before, he started to hire recent grads from Grinnell College, photography majors, communications majors, journalists, John Riley, Missy Bowen, Carl Dukestein. Many of those individuals that he tutored over the years also were recognized by the Iowa Press Association and were given honorable mentions or awards for their photography or their photojournalism. And they went on much bigger careers. John Riley had a fantastic career in Minneapolis. Dad enjoyed retirement. He retired in 1989. Cindy and I had 2 young boys at that time. We would come back every summer and spend time with them, Bob and Bernadette. And on more than one occasion, we'd either be at the golf course or maybe Club 528, and somebody would stop Dad and say, "Sully, how you doing? How's retirement? Do you miss work?" He'd say, "No, but I do miss reporting on sports." He truly loved it. So recognition was the way that he motivated himself. As I said before, he's a perfectionist. Truly loved competition, loved to be put in the same box as some of these other larger newspapers. But I can tell you if he's here tonight, he'd be truly honored. So thank you.
Our next honoree defined what it meant to be a multi-sport star during his time as coach. Marty Sutherland, likely best remembered for his baseball success, where he was a 3-time All-State selection, and also the first Cascade player ever named Elite All-State. He still holds a handful of school records, not only in baseball, but as was mentioned in basketball, where he was a 4-year starter on several of Coach Marshall's most successful teams, including the 1998 squad that got 4th place at the state tournament. His senior year, he branched out, became a 4-sport athlete, picked up an all-district designation as the football team's kicker, and qualified for the state track meet as well. He continued to rack up baseball honors in college and beyond as an all-region performer at both Kirkwood and then UNI, and a Hall of Fame semi-pro career as well. He currently serves as the associate head coach and recruiting coordinator at the University of Iowa, where he's helped lead the Hawkeyes to a pair of NCAA tournament appearances, a Big Ten tournament championship, and an average of 30 wins per season. Now, we have several of Marty's former coaches with us tonight. They could all probably speak to what they saw in him back then, indicated he would be a successful coach. I've got a bit of insight there too. I think I was on the first team Marty ever coached, Hall ball, when I was in 7th grade, and he was a sophomore, 1996. Marty and Chris Fleming, if you can believe that. Now, about halfway through the season, we were underperforming in a game and went over to the bench at the end of the first quarter. Marty wasn't really happy. He outlined some of the adjustments he wanted, and then he went around the huddle, looked every one of us in the eye. Sorry to get emotional about this, but he said to us words that I will never forget. "Would you all please stop playing like blind 6-year-olds? Here to induct Marty is another one of our Hall of Famers from last year, Coach Jerry Walton.
I just have a couple side notes before I talk about Marty here. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees. I had great memories of all of you, so from those days when we were back at Cascade, those first forming years and so forth. Greg and I don't know if Greg remembers this or not, but Greg and I used to play one-on-one before basketball practice. Before, I don't know if Al ever consented to that or agreed that that was a good thing or not, but Greg and I would play one-on-one at the one end of the gym for about 10 minutes before they started about every night. So that was fun. I remember that. Looking around the room, we could put one heck of a baseball team on the field tonight. So I appreciate, I'm sure Marty appreciates all of you coming, so yes. Okay, I feel privileged to be introducing Marty Sutherland as a new member of the Cascade High School Athletic Hall of Fame. In writing my speech, I felt like I was representing 3 other coaches who would have great praise for him as well. Marty was a 4-sport athlete, participating in baseball, basketball, football, and track. I remember having conversations over the years with Mr. Marshall about Marty, in which we had similar thoughts about how fortunate we were to have coached him and what a great leader, athlete, and person he was. I know Mr. McLaughlin and Mr. Keller would feel the same way. Marty was true to himself, whether he was competing on the court or field, walking the hallway, or being in class. He was a good student and an excellent athlete with good character. Therefore, a perfect role model for younger athletes. Humility was one of his virtues. Regardless of how much he contributed individually to a team victory, he was always quick to share the credit with his teammates. Family was always very important to Marty. His mother Lucy and sister Courtney had a special meaning in his life. Lucy was probably the most knowledgeable baseball mom I've ever had. I think that comes from her being a Simon. Her only drawback, as I remember, was that she was a Dodger fan, along with Marty. Being a Brave fan, they generally had bragging rights over me, except for last year, and hopefully this year. There was always a tremendous amount of pride in what Marty did and what he represented. He had a great deal of respect for his Uncle Merlin, who took a special interest in Marty and his baseball development, spending lots of time with him in the batting cage at a young age. Marty had a great work ethic and excellent attitude. His energy level and focus was always where it needed to be. He would never sit on his laurels. He would always want more and strive to be the best he could be. Marty was a positive influence on his teammates. Even as a freshman, he had the respect of his upper-class teammates. I remember him pitching meaningful games, doing some catching, and playing the infield as a freshman. He was a good teammate to all of his teammates, regardless of their role on the team. He treated them all with respect. Marty was not always the most athletic player on the field or court, but usually the most accomplished one. He was like having a coach playing the game. He had the unique ability of making everyone around him a better player. It was apparent to me that he had the makings of an outstanding coach, even at that early age. Most times leaders would lead by word of mouth or example, whereas Marty had the unique ability to do both and on a consistent basis. The numbers Marty put up in his career speak for themselves. He never got caught up in individual stats. One stat that jumps out at me in baseball was the 18 home runs that he hit as a junior year, a record that stands to this day. I never really thought of him as a home run hitter, nor did he think of himself as one, at least I don't think so. I think he bought into the baseball phrase, a home run is a line drive mistake. The one home run I remember was the one he hit versus Mount Vernon, off Doug Hess, at Mount Vernon in the sub-state final. A line shot over the left center field fence. To me, that game will always be known as the umpire game. He was a clutch player who wanted the ball in his hands, regardless of sport, with the game on the line. He displayed a great deal of confidence without being arrogant. On his senior night of baseball, I think we played West Delaware. I remember Mike Morrison, the West Delaware coach, saying that it seemed like Marty had been playing for 6 years. I think Marty had 5 or 6 game-winning hits against them in his career. Marty has gone on since high school and made a name for himself in baseball as a player at Kirkwood Junior College and the University of Northern Iowa, and as a coach at the University of Northern Iowa, and presently as the associate head coach under Rick Heller at the University of Iowa. He is highly respected by all the high school and college coaches throughout the state. And now, a new member of the Cascade High School Athletic Hall of Fame of the year 2022, Marty Sutherland.
Well, a couple things come to mind being last. One, the old alphabetical deal is a huge pain in the ass. I sat over there with an idea of what was going to go on, and it's changed it a couple hundred times since then. In fact, after Matt got done talking, one is, he's pretty good at this thing. Two is, Samson's, can I just walk off? Because a lot of the things that obviously he touched on, coaching, everything, certainly in sync with me. I'd like to thank the committee. I think all of us who've been in Cascade and been involved in athletics knew something like this was something that was needed in this community, to just reflect upon, you know, what a rich history we have at Cascade for athletics, and a community that just, it matters here. And you know, I have the luxury of coaching or recruiting kids all over the place, and you get them from big cities, small cities, or whatever. And it's certainly my favorite thing to do is to go to a small community and pull a kid from places like that, because I know it matters to that particular place, and I know the front of that jersey means a lot more than what the back may say. So I'm always appreciative of that type of thing, and again, the committee just has done a great job getting this together and making the mistake of putting me in here. So that's a great thing. Congratulations to all the other inductees tonight. Carrie, I know we've never really met, but I don't know if there's a more decorated athlete that's come through Cascade. It was something that you would look up on the rafters, and you certainly knew who Carrie was. Mr. O'Mara, there was a detention in '97 that I think I talk to students all the time. They leave campus all the time to go eat nowadays, but back then, I'm still dealing with that. I'll send you my therapy. John Sullivan, who was a guy I got to know really late in John's life here in the last few years, through Sarah and Steve Weber, and what a great man. Iowa baseball alum, and anytime they brought John down to a game, we were able to go out to dinner or lunch afterwards, and just really loved having a chance to speak with him and get to know him, like I said, later on in his life. Mac, I think anybody who's grown up in Cascade at my time really appreciated the trail that you blazed. I know you talked about the people that went before you. You were the one for me. So pretty cool thing to be in here with you. I was at your first press conference at UNI, between class. I walked over there at the end and caught Coach Marshall over there. So it was a great experience. And just listening to you talk about, well, Coach Marshall brought it up about the talk where you got challenged. I had one of those. After my freshman year, I'd gotten moved up and didn't go great. I didn't handle it great. So I had to talk after the season. I didn't have the luxury of a practice the next day to overcome. I had to stew on that for a while. But a great talk nonetheless. And I think about the two coaches, I think about Coach Rowling and Coach Marshall, two guys that, their effect on me is immeasurable. I can't speak to what that effect is. And They're guys I think about all the time. I bring up that little tidbit about Coach Marshall and that talk we had in his classroom after my freshman year, and I think about a situation with Coach Rowling when I was a freshman, same thing. He was on me, it was defensively, which it never really worked. It never did. Just tried to ricochet that ball in the right direction. But anyway, he was on me, and I remember Ben Frazier, who was a junior at the time, was there, and I just looked at Ben, I was like, why is he on me? And Ben, being apparently Gandhi, said he wouldn't do that if he didn't think you were any good, which, you know, really resonated with me at the time. So Ben's not here, but thanks, Ben. That was a big deal. I figured it out, at least at that point. The other people, you know, I was lucky enough to grow up in a great family. The Simon family was alluded to a couple times tonight. Was certainly lucky to be a part of that. I think they all had a hand in raising me, especially all the uncles, because they seem to be the ones around here. Loris, Matt, Tommy, Lee, my late uncles Irwin and Matt, just had a huge part in raising me. All had to deal with a thing or two from a temperamental redhead. We don't need to rehash many of those stories. I've learned I was probably wrong. Actually, I was probably right. They just didn't figure it out. But certainly they had a part in raising me. Several cousins that I consider, you know, brothers and sisters. Some of which are here tonight, which is great. I think of my mom Lucy, who Coach Rowling talked about, and I mean, I can't imagine a better mom that anybody could possibly have. I think she was at more games than I actually played in, probably. But that's probably true. My sister Courtney and her husband Robert are here. Courtney, it took her a little time to come around on me, I think. But finally did after a few episodes or two. She's been great. My girlfriend Julie, who couldn't be here tonight, she's a coach. She's in her season right now. Really disappointed that she couldn't come and hear how sweet I was at 25 years old. Hopefully somebody will video that and send it to her. So that's good. She always gets on me because you know, baseball guys, we all know what our stats are. It's a disease, we just know. She was a collegiate soccer player, and she just doesn't understand that, and I just tell her, well, you only have to remember one goal every 5 games. What do you know? Cut that out, edit that. Several teammates that showed up here tonight, I don't think there's any greater feeling than having something like this happen and having people show up that I wouldn't be here without. Think of 3 in particular: Jason Simon, Roman Holm, Mikey Green. We played a lot of baseball together, a lot of wiffle ball. Micah not as much because he was probably too good a pitcher. We didn't want to deal with him. But Jason and Roman certainly a lot of things that way. I didn't have blood brothers, but they're certainly my brothers. And then lastly, I know Mac touched on this, and the one thing that I wanted to really talk about was just how great it is to grow up in a community like this. And I think about a couple different things. I think about, you know, if you went to a state tournament, you got home at 11 at night, midnight, the whole town was waiting for you. There was a parade. There wasn't a parade organized at 3 o'clock on Sunday. It was when you got back. I remember going to play Beckman in a district game. We were always lined up, and that's who we had to play. We were there an hour before the game, and you walked, and there was 100 people in line at that time waiting to get in. And just how special growing up in a community like that is. And I think about, you know, no matter where my mortgage payment happens to be, Cascade will always be home. And I never take that for granted. And I think about guys like Mac, and I think about guys like Colin Ray, who go and do really special things, and how much that matters to everybody else here, and that we get to be on those journeys. So if, for whatever reason, my journey ends up going, see, caught it. And to finish, I guess, those of you who know me know I love music, okay? And there's a song that I really like. And the chorus is, you're always 17 in your own hometown. And I just hope all of us have a place that we can feel that young whenever we go back. So, thank you.
Pay over. Folks, we want to thank you again tonight for coming out to honor these very deserving Hall of Famers. And again, be thinking about who we should be enshrining next year. Again, take one of those nomination forms on your tables. They can also be accessed on the Cascade High School website as well. You've heard them mentioned a couple times already, but before we adjourn, I do want to take a moment to recognize the other members of the Hall of Fame committee. You met at the door Adam Kedley, who is the activities director and assistant principal at Cascade High School. Roman Hummel, who was just mentioned, head baseball coach, just took the Cougars back to the state tournament this past summer. Mary Frake and Phil Counter, current head coaches in the midst of their seasons right now. Phil with the cross-country teams and Mary with the volleyball squad. Ginny Horsfield, longtime Cascade coach and physical education teacher. Kevin Felton, and back he is himself a member of the Dubuque County Baseball Hall of Fame. Matt Nauman, one of the most respected high school baseball umpires around. And Chris Curry, also a current head coach, himself a great athlete at CHS. His contributions to Cougar athletics are going to extend into the 2040s. Thank you so much again. Please, before we overwhelm Jerry back there, we'd like to get all the Hall of Famers up here for a photo. And then, again, be thinking of who we should be honoring here next year. One more round of applause for our class.